Hello, everyone. Lovely to see folks here in the Zoom room, and welcome to those of you who are practicing with us after on the YouTube channel. Lovely to know there's folks that regularly um, feel a part of this group, even though they're not able to be with us on Wednesday nights. So, welcome to you. Um, Tonight, we're going to start with a short little kind of a contemplation. Contemplation is an aspect of meditation, or can be an aspect of meditation, and reflection, and also using recollections and memory. That these can also be part of the tools that we use to um, have insights and to cultivate wisdom and compassion. So. Um, And it's helpful to know when we're doing that and to doing that with intention so that when we're, for instance, if we had an intention to just have an anchor and be mindful of that anchor and be returning to that anchor, then we would just want to know when we're lost in memory or when we're in some reverie or some future imagining. And when that's just happening out of habit, that's part of the practice is to know when that's happening and gently with care and wisdom and awareness beginning again with our anchor. So but tonight a little bit different. We're going to intentionally do some of that to bring in some reflection and some even future imagining. So we'll see where it goes. I think we're going to start right now with a short imagining. Um, so either just resting where you are with your eyes open or closed or resting down. And this is just going to be a short reflection or imagining. And then we'll gather again in a few minutes. Um, so we're not going to take a lot of time to go into a relaxing the body and grounding. We're just going to take some time right here, right now, and imagine your the future meditator you. Well, if you imagine yourself, if you could be your version of your ideal meditator, we often have kind of an idea of when this and that are just right, I'm going to be able to meditate. And what would your practice look like? How often would your ideal meditating self be practicing? And for how long would you be practicing? Maybe you could even picture your space, if you could have your ideal space or place that you practice. Where would that be? And then check out if you imagine yourself that you have this practice that maybe is, yeah, I won't fill in the blanks, but whatever that ideal practice looks like, how does it feel in your body to be that person that practices in that way? How does that show up in your demeanor, in your energy, in your body? Does it affect your speech or your behavior? how do you move through your days, or how do you interact with the people that you regularly with in life or work or home? Do you move about your day differently at a different pace or a different kind of posture or energy or expression? Hmm. And then take another breath there, really feeling that. And then I'll ring the bowl and we'll transition from that reflection. Okay, so just in those few moments, if you're here in the Zoom room and feel like adding anything into the chat, you're welcome to share that, and I'll read them out if you want. Otherwise, we can just continue contemplating this. Um, the reason, and I'll just keep talking if you're adding to the chat in the meanwhile. Um, I was in it was like listening to a podcast of a group I belong to, and it's something I know well, but it really landed for me the way this coach or this podcast leader said it. It just stood out to me as sometimes things we already know do stand out to us. Um, but she said, later never comes. There is no future you. Um, and so I've been reflecting about my internalized ideas of some future aspect of idea of myself where I'm like my best version of a meditator for myself, what that looks like. I have some idea that when things are whatever, different in my whatever aspects, different in my life, less busyness, less distraction, less whatever, then I'll practice whatever, fill in the blank for yourself, but however many times a week and consistently and for this chunk of time every day. And then, and then I will be, and we can fill in the blanks there, right? I will be kinder and wiser and slower and more patient and et cetera, et cetera. Um, there's a lot to unpack in there to see if you have any subconscious, unconscious ideas about your future best meditator self. And then to understand the truth that later never comes. There is no future best meditator, no future you, because we're always in the present moment. We're whenever our idea of future is not going to be what we imagine, but also it's when we're there, we're not in the future, we're in that present moment. So we're always in present moment. Present moment is actually not even a thing as well, because it sounds like a solid, like a moment, that you could point at or touch or hold, but even that is ephemeral. So we can have these subtle attachments to our perceptions about our best meditator self. And this doesn't just apply to meditation, of course, it applies to anything you want to apply it to, our ideas about who we will become or want to become. Uh, and this same type of curiosity can be also applied kind of in a past reflection. because sometimes we can have these attachments to, when we were our best, when we had our best meditation, like and maybe we had a retreat or a particular sit where we experienced some perhaps state of calm or joy or equanimity or one of these more sublime, heartful states or some different degree of ease, of peace, or great insights, great liberating insights that where we have some attachment to from our past meditator self, right? And if I could only, this can really sneak in very well, sometimes in very dramatic ways, especially when people have like a really good retreat experience. If you're on a longer retreat and you have a great retreat and experience something that feels profound, it's very, can be subtle, but can also really push people in practice for years unconsciously, where they're trying to get back to that state, trying to recreate all those causes and conditions to have that experience again. Uh, that definitely does happen quite a bit. And, but even unconsciously, how, and then to really see how impossible it is, the infinite variables and causes and conditions. And of course, we're never going to be our past self. We're so different day by day, moment by moment, absolutely changing, even though we feel like, but I'm always the same. Um, and all the causes and conditions, if I think of like a long retreat or even any retreat or even my own practice or sits and infinite, boundless variables that caused the conditions to arise in that way, in that moment, that could never come together again in that form. Um, so it could be something worth reflecting on if some of these unconscious attachments, attachments to our perceptions of ourselves are at play in a future meditator self or attachment to some past experience or past ideas about experience more accurately. Um, I've put a link here in the chat and I'll put it below in the Zoom room here. One of the books I'm currently reading. This is part of a book group, actually, study group called Boundless Heart by Christina Feldman. And it's about the four Brahma Viharas, meditations, boundless friendliness, compassion, harmonic joy, and equanimity. These are four meditations and more than meditations, four cultivations um, that are very quite central to our meditation practice. Um, so this book called Boundless Heart by Christina Feldman, and she says here with regards to what we're talking about, past, future, present. Um, she says mindfulness and metta. So metta is what I was just calling, she calls it immeasurable kindness. Very nice. Immeasurable kindness. This heart abode of receptive friendliness to whatever's arising in relationship with whatever is arising, even if it's ill will. Ah, turning towards it with caring attention. Ill will is here. What's needed, dear one? May I be free from this painful state. So it doesn't mean that we just feel loving kindness to everybody all the time, but it's the attitude of turning towards whatever is here, is what she's just referred to here as metta. And mindfulness. Mindfulness is that basic remembering what we're paying attention to. So, mindfulness and metta go hand in hand. Both can only be cultivated in the moment we are present in. It is the only moment that can be transformed. We cannot have yesterday or tomorrow's mindfulness or metta, just as we cannot have yesterday or tomorrow's headache or loss. It is, um, wait, I just lost my thread. Present. Yeah, it is the only moment that can be transformed, the present moment. And it's interesting because mindfulness and metta or any of these Brahmavihara meditations do condition and inform present or future moments. So it's related to karma, it's related to interconnectedness, that what we cultivate in the present moment, of course, does have an effect on future moments. And our past experiences do have an effect, a ripple on present moment. But it is only in the present moment that these things can be cultivated actively, intentionally developed and stabilized. And expanded isn't the word. Yeah, I'll just stay with developed. We can't have yesterday or tomorrow's mindfulness or metta. So watch for this kind of projecting or clinging to past experiences or ideas of ourselves. She goes on to say, we learn through our practice to trust that each moment we make an attitudinal commitment to befriending rather than to aversion makes a difference. So each moment, present moment, this attitudinal commitment to turn towards how things are and how that matters, how that's what makes a difference, rather than clinging or attachment to some future or past version of ourselves, but just moment by moment. What's needed now? What's needed now? Hmm. I'm just seeing if there's any more I want to add to that. Hmm. Yeah, it feels complete in this moment. Um, just to maybe do, if it feels like something that sparks some curiosity for you, you might do some journaling or some more of that kind of recollecting or imagining. If there's some attachment to when things are like this, that's when I'm going to really have a good practice or be a good meditator. Or what if I could only get back to fill in the blank. And it can be helpful. Hmm, I'm just inner dialogue when it's sick. So, I think there can be a skillful way to use this reflection. The trick is to do it without attachment. Easier said than done. But if you do want to play around with this, you do like we did in the beginning here of imagining this future best meditator version of yourself, right? how you move in the world, how what your energy is like, how you respond to people. Uh, hmm, what does your space look like, or what are the characteristics of the space where you practice? And then it might be helpful to see, is something there possible for me? Is there something that do I need to do some clearing or decluttering or asking others that I reside with for some period of quiet time? Like, is there something there that would be supportive? And then I also have been experimenting with it just like in the middle of the day, just dropping it in as I'm moving about in an average day to actually feel it in an embodied way. What would it feel like in this moment if I was really internally peaceful? And I can feel this little shift in my inner peace, which affects my presence and interaction and forward, like my responding in that moment. It's quite interesting to just kind of drop in the cue, w- you know, what would that feel like? And then how is that possible right now? And see, oh, it actually is possible right now. Not to be some ideal perfect version. I hope that's clear. It sounds like it's confusing. Yeah, so not the attachment to being an ideal perfect meditator, but that inner landscape. If if I could connect with that inner state, I can actually touch into it in this moment. Something to explore. I've been finding it helpful, just in little resets in the middle of the day. Yeah. All right. I think that is all I want to share for curiosity, and rather let's have a practice now. All right. So we'll just set aside any distractions and get and adjust your posture. Gonna have a sip of water. Just mute. Hmm. All right, and then as you set aside distractions, finding a posture that's supportive for you to rest your eyes, either downward or closed, or just resting on a still point. And letting your hands rest, letting go of busyness or attachments to doing. And then letting awareness flow down and through and around the body as you feel the muscles of your face and notice if there's any tension there that's not needed. As the eyes and the jaw, perhaps the tongue, the forehead, find a little more ease or softness. Then we could feel into the muscles of the neck and across the shoulders. Letting the shoulder bones slide down. All the way down the arms into relaxed hands. Sometimes I find it helpful to take a few slightly deeper breaths, just to notice if there's any holding or tension in the chest or belly or back. Feeling into the deeper muscles of the abdomen and noticing if there's tension there that isn't needed in this moment. A little bit of softness or ease. Deep back into our nervous system. And as the upper body begins and continues relaxing, feeling a little more heaviness or weightedness through the hips, the legs, feet. Feel the places the body is touching the supports that you're on, the ground or the chair or cushion. And then we'll draw in the support of our ethics or sila, feeling this as your inner resource, your inner strength, your uprightness. We undertake these commitments and interrelatedness to refrain from taking life, from causing harm, to refrain from taking more than is freely offered from to us, to refrain from speaking falsely and harshly, harmfully. To refrain from causing harm with our sensuality and sexuality. And lastly, to refrain from a lack of mindfulness caused by intoxicants of many different forms. So these are our 5 lay precepts, but you may have other values and ethics that guide your life. Take a moment to just feel that as a felt sensation, your inner strength. And feel that your commitment every day to these ethics and values and ways of being in relationship with each other actually help condition more calm, more ease, more heartfulness. And see if you can feel that as a felt experience in this moment. Less disturbance because we haven't been intentionally causing harm. And then you might draw in this contemplation or reflection, even imagining or remembering the felt experience of yourself as your ideal meditator. What does it feel like? Maybe you've had a taste of peaceful and heartful and calm or equanimous meditations, even if it's just for a few moments, or you're imagining what that would feel like. And then let yourself really feel it in this very moment. What does that feel like? To just be here with however it is, with kindness. Later never comes. It's always this moment. Over and over again, each moment, inviting this commitment, attitudinal commitment to befriending rather than aversion to anything that's here for us in this moment. You can just continue resting in this spacious embodied awareness. Or if you find it helpful to have an anchor, you could pay attention a little bit more to an anchor, like a particular sensation or breath sensation. Or you could just stay in a bit more of a spacious field of just abiding. Mindfulness and metta go hand in hand. Both can only be cultivated in the moment we are present in. It is the only moment that can be transformed. What would it feel like if it were already true in this moment? This kind attention, this awake awareness. What would the felt experience be like if you really knew in this very moment that you're not doing it wrong? What would this moment feel like if you were imbued with immeasurable kindness to yourself, to whatever is arising and passing, to all beings? What if you were awake right now? Hmm. Thank you for practicing with us. If you joined on the YouTube channel, check the link below for Christina's lovely book, Boundless Heart, the Buddha's Path of Kindness, Compassion, Joy, and Equanimity. And later never comes.